Hi, what's up? Good to be here. Hope you all are doing good. Are we good? So, first time at the huddle, and I'm speaking. So interesting. Yeah. So my name is Mary Afolabi, and these images feel like they explain a couple of things, like periods of my life when I was a child. Then I started to explore. So this is a pastel painting that I made of myself, by myself. This is a palette knife painting that I made of myself, by myself. And this is a photography of, art directed by myself for my 30-year-old shoot. So they are very interesting for me. So I'm standing here and I'm remembering myself as a child, and I'm in my parents' dressing room. I'm sitting down in the midst of a lot of things, books most particularly. And as I'm picking books, there are books on Eskimos, the Amazon, Library of Nations, on China, Japan, several things. I think I read another book about, several things, basically. So imagine well-designed books, immersing myself in visual cultures and everything, all right? And I remember this particular book of pharaohs. I'm trying to remember exactly, I think it's just the book of pharaohs, or the pharaohs of Egypt. The book is green, and it's a bit bigger than A4. And then I'm opening it, and then I got to one page. The page had a baby page inside, and I'm like, okay, this is strange. So I opened the first one, then I saw that it had another flap, and it wasn't center spread, it was 4 pages like that opened, and this was what I saw inside. I tried to get a good image, but this is the best I got. It was sharp. I saw it was alive. I'm like, this is crazy. Egyptian pharaohs were crazy because what do you mean you have coffin inside another coffin, inside another coffin? That's how they actually buried people. Like one coffin inside another coffin, inside another coffin, inside another coffin. And then they will send the coffins through the Nile River to the, to the pyramids. So that was interesting for me, and it stuck to my head. Then these slippers is actually a gold slippers, and then the toe covers are like in gold. So you can imagine that splendor that they were using to bury, that they were spending to bury dead people. That was interesting for me, and it stuck in my head. And that was part of my childhood. Imagine that as a child, I didn't exactly enjoy playing around. You know, when kids are playing around in the area, running around, that sounded like, for me, it felt like people were making noise. I know. Maybe I was too serious as a kid, but yeah. So then life happened. Everyone has a number of us have probably experienced looking for admission, waiting, JAMB is jambing you. I was smart, actually. It wasn't like I was dumb, but actually, yeah. But I'm grateful that I didn't get in because, I almost went to study geography in school. And it was just, I need to leave this house. So I'm grateful that I didn't get in because while I was waiting to get admitted or to figure out what exactly I wanted, I started to learn design. So I was learning taking classes for JAMB, and then while I was taking those classes, my dad told me that, Mary, when you are done with your JAMB, you are going to Brayo's office. So Brayo, was this guy that in church would just carry his camera everywhere, and he's just taking pictures. And he took that first picture of me, this one. Yeah. So, I got to his office and started to learn design. I remember my first day at his office, several computers, desktops. And then it says, so welcome. This is a desktop. I imagine you know how to use it a bit. This is CorelDRAW. This is how to move things around. This is how to duplicate, fill color, change type. I think that was all. And maybe power clip, I think. And he said, see this design, replicate it. Now, it was in that office that I found out that that was my first encounter of a full stack creative. Someone that could take pictures, he could paint, he could design, of course, he was designing websites, managing websites. So it was like this guy that was just boundless. So I'm just there, just living, learning, and everything. So, I mean, on the screen, I have my first logo. Behold. I can explain. The person actually described. You all probably started better. That's why you're laughing. So you know when your client, you know that thing that we joke about, that we are like, your client says, put an aeroplane, da 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 da. This was it. So the person was like, you know, it's a drama ministry. Put fire, cross, the stage. You know, we love to use the stage, da 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 da. So yeah, that was my first logo. This was the first thing that I printed. I know that there are a lot of people that probably have mentees and everything. I recommend that you tell your mentees to print their designs first. Like when they're excited, I'm like, oh my God, I saw this, I designed this, print it out. Because when you design something and then you used font size 12 to design, and then the entire thing looks like a billboard in your face, you're like, Jesus Christ, I designed this. I mean, not to talk about the fact that this is... Yeah. So I had just gotten into school for this last one, and someone borrowed me his laptop. Then I didn't have my laptop. Borrowed me his laptop, and he was always so gracious. He would just borrow me his laptop, da da da. And then someone asked me to design... I mean, I don't even need to say anything. But I mean, I'm showing myself here. I don't know what your first designs looked like, so let's have fun. But that was me. So I eventually got admitted, and I started to understand why my designs were terrible, because I got admitted to study fine arts, and I'm grateful, because if I had gone in for geography, I don't even know. I don't know what I would have been doing now, but like, while studying fine arts, you would learn the basic fundamentals of design, of art is what they call it, but like, it translates, makes sense. Right, so you're learning about principles, elements, everything is making more sense, psychology behind stuff. And then what was also interesting was that I was able to touch a number of media. Is it media or medium? So I think the only thing that I didn't carve was stone. I carved wood. I did cement work. I did painting in oil, pastel, watercolor, gouache, or poster color, mixed media, everything. And yeah, while I was a student, then I was teaching design. That was the first time that I met Tunji OG. But it's not here, so right, yeah. So this was what we called ourselves, the design gurus. Don't judge, we were actually great, yeah. We were great, actually. I mean, great enough to be able to teach people, to mentor people and all that. of course, I had gotten better, right? I'd done I had one project that got so popular. It got so popular, it got printed across the campus. People were interacting with it. It was a conference, school-wide. It was good. I was having fun. Then I had to specialize. I had to pick an area of specialization. And so typically, when I find an applied arts student, they'll present some areas to you to say, you're great at this, this, and this because of your grades. But confusion. They gave me everything. And I'm like, okay, so what do I pick? Of course, I'd done ceramics, I'd played with clay, I knew how to handle clay, so I felt like the lecturers were in fun. I think then I was speaking with my then boyfriend, now husband, and he was like, I think you want to try painting. And he asked me, would you rather pick graphics over painting? And I'm like, no, we're literally still painting graphic design stuff in my uni. So I was already printing my stuff. It didn't make sense to me to go back to painting with hand. It didn't make sense. So I just said, you know what? Let me go and learn how to paint. I thought it's just colors. I was great at colors then, so what's there? So I started to, so I remember, I can't get the picture for that, but I remember my very first oil color painting. I was so scared. So I had my colors pressed out of the tube on my palette. I had my brushes, I had palette knives. I had my sketch on the canvas. And I'm just looking at this thing, like, oil is crazy. Like, if you've ever painted color, like if you've ever used oil or acrylic, you probably prefer acrylic because acrylic dries pretty fast. Manageable. Of course, like, if you want to paint some styles, you spend more acrylic. But, like, oil can just smear your clothes and all of that. But the assignment was for oil. And I remember that I just had my stuff there. Then my lecturer came in and said, who owns all these things? What's happening? And he said, Mary, Iwani, spoke in Yoruba. And then he said, why do you have palette knives and you're not painting? He said, this palette knife will make you paint faster. I said, tell me more. So he just carried one palette knife, mixed one thing, looked at one of my figures and said, in fact, you don't even need to draw. 5 minutes he was on. I'm like, okay, I'm not painting with brush again because I did not come to this life to suffer. So this was painted with palette knife, and that was my last painting in school. That was stolen. It's so gorgeous. They didn't allow it to dry. The money that I spent to make this painting, because when you're painting with palette knife, you're spending a lot of color. So someone stole it before it got dried. Yeah, people are crazy. I mean, I thought we were all artists, and someone stole it. But yeah. No, at this point, this was stealing from an artist. That's bold and wicked. But so this is a pastel painting that I made, and I played with every media basically. Then I got back home, finished my my projects and everything, and I was getting some design jobs, playing around. So I tried to paint after I left school. I think I painted the first one, it entered. The second one was a mess. Like, because I understand color, I know when you are painting rubbish, and what you paint looks like the state of your mind, typically, like the tones, the saturation of the color, and all of that. So I was painting rubbish. And I was angry. So I think it was an evening, Tunji Oji just called me and he said, Mary, what's up? What are you up to? I'm like, I'm just here designing a bit, da 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 da. And then he says, Fort Canvas, would you like to come work with us at Fort Canvas? I was in Ibadan. Fort Canvas was in Akure. And then he says, would you like to come? I'm like, come to Akure means that I'm going to work every day in an office. Doing what exactly? And then he says, no, you're coming every day, you're designing every day. I'm like, really? Okay. So I settled. I had fights in my house because, why are you leaving? We're not chasing you out. We're not even asking you to pay any money. Da da da. And I'm like, I think I want to go. I'm frustrated. So my parents, not every parent would do that, said, okay, you can go. And then I got to Fort Canvas first week. I think I started working the first week, I think. And I was just having fun. It was so much fun. I'm like, okay. So when I was leaving home, because of how terrible my colors were, I did not take anything to paint with. So I was like, you know what? I'm leaving everything in a box. I'm not painting for now. Let me go and face design. Then I got to Akure. I got frustrated after a while and came back to carry my pastel color. That was when I painted this, right? So I was designing. I was happy, really, but I just knew that I needed something that I could, in quotes, control, something I could play with. So at Fort Canvas, I started to learn, and there's a way that you can teach design, and you're great. But then you start to work with people that are like hot too, and then you see that, more. So I felt like, I think there was a period that Victor would correct maybe alignment. It was almost always alignment, by the way. Victor and alignment. It would literally be like this on the screen, like, this, that. And then it's correcting. And then I'm thinking, Mary, but you taught people this thing. But it was really me realizing that there's a level to, like, there's something that comes with experience. If you're doing just one project, or like one project in 2 months, for instance, there's a difference between that and having your hands on like 4 different art boards and stuff. It changes something, you start to see differently. So that happened. And when I joined as a graphic designer. Then we morphed into fully brand design, right? And 2019, I was close to getting married. I had negotiated a deal. It was the biggest as at then at Fosse. And I was having fun on that project. But, I mean, if you're a brand designers here, or like you've done brand design before, there's a way that you actually know that there are some things that you can't try out because there is a brief, or like you're trying to communicate essence. So it's not your essence alone in that sense. It's like it has to follow some form that is coming from the client. You are doing it for the client. So it just felt like I needed to breathe. So during that period, I collected some stuff, we all have inspiration boards. If you're like a designer, you have like Pinterest boards and you've collected lots of stuff in them, but we almost never really do anything about them. So knowing what I felt, I think what pushed me to that edge was that I was handling church design, and for the first time, someone told me that my pastor in church said, Sister Mary, this design is not entering again. It's not, I'm like, I wanted to talk and say, I'm like, okay, wait, let me step back. It's true. So I said, okay, the best thing that I should do is to go and play, go back to play. So I went back to my Pinterest boards and said 30 minutes every morning before I go back to work, I'll start to design something. Had to be 30 minutes, could not be 1 hour because I had to do a couple of things before I left home. So I added this for effect. This was not from that exact period. And I added this because when you get stuck, typically, you actually want to fight and you're frantically fighting, like, no, not me. Like, why am I stuck? I need to do something. So you're like, but sometimes there is a time when you should do nothing. I know it's crazy, especially when you're like, when you have bills to pay, adulting and Lagos rent, different things, you know. But like, I learned that creating space to do nothing, finding a safe cocoon for myself to do nothing and just exist was so important to my work. So I created this. So, yeah, tracking back to 2019, I then said, what do I do? So I started to create stuff. Let me see if anything made it from out of that period. Okay. So this is what happened. After I discovered that I could try out that 30 minutes every other time, so I shared a couple of them online. People liked them. And then it became my safety, my safe space. So anytime that I was running down back to ground zero, and I knew, of course I knew, I'll just rush back and start to create these things, 30 minutes every day. So it was more about trying to give form to my intrusive thoughts. So, for instance, with this stay focused this here, for some reason this is looking a bit, you know, but like stay focused is here in the background. Can you see a bit? And then there is distraction. So that was me. So when I'm getting distracted, I'm actually whispering to myself like, Mary, stay focused, stay focused, stay focused. So this is me literally giving form to my intrusive thoughts, right? And then when someone is saying, Omo, Mary, I've not seen you in an event for a bit, da 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 da. I'm like, Omo, I want to say it, but sometimes I'm just like, Omo, I've been busy. But it's sometimes it sounds weird that you're too busy to show up or something. But like, I'm not busy doing nothing. It's that I'm busy doing stuff. So I created this, busy with doings. And then there was interference. I think that period, I was thinking about how that when you're moving on one, like a straight line, that sometimes you need a detour, sometimes you need an interference to just break through whatever you're going through, whatever is the straight path, and that might be everything that you need. Then flow, it was just a happy accident, to be honest. I loved it so much, and I left it like that. I think it was some opacity stuff that I was playing around with, and that happened. Then work be like play, play be like work. So this is funny. There was a period that I had like maybe 3 projects. No. So we were working on rebranding Thrive Agric. The same week, we had a presentation I had a presentation for a brand that I sent the logo presentation to the person in the middle of the night, and I slept off. Woke up early in the morning, and I saw, Mary, this is messy. So the person is in the UK, and she's like, this is messy. So I read it, I'm like, okay, you know what, let me go back to sleep first. We're going to meet later in the day. So she will explain to me, like, to be honest, I wasn't going to fight, to be honest. I was just like, I need to know what it means to say that the work is messy. I wasn't going to fight. I know it looks like I was going to fight, but no. So I was prepared. And then I think Victor was on that group too. So Victor was like, I don't know what this means. Is everything okay? Da, 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 da. And then she says, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. When we say that something is messy, sorry, this is an old slang. I've been in the UK for too long. When we say that something is messy, it's so good. This is mad. I'm like, okay. He said I could have killed a lot. But yeah, it was crazy. And I remember during that period, we were just about to, the next day, I was going to present the new identity for Thrive Agric. So, and I was pregs too. So it was wild. So I'm like, I felt like I was in a flow state. So work was like play. But to now make space for play was now like work. So I created that, like work be like play, play be like work. Then I can be real hot. This is from the old, this is like an OG. I can be real cool and hot. So it was a day we were in Ibadan, and then we're still in Ibadan, and then the weather was chill. And for some reason, it was hot too. So I'm like, I know how it felt for me. So I made something that looked like it. Like I was really feeling like I was freezing and still warm at the same time. So I'm like, why not? Then shift, it was me just thinking that shift is visible. Like if you're moving, it is very visible. Then stay conscious again, intrusive thoughts. So yeah. And then this. So I was telling someone, he's not here yet. I was telling someone that my husband is probably one of the people that I carefully work with when it comes to designing for them. Because he also studied art, so he would know if I'm lying that I've got this, like that this is good to go. He can tell. He inspired me to understand color, so I can't lie to him. So these are song covers from his newest album, and this is representing like a phase for my life where I started to express through colors, right? So it was like I was interpreting a lot of things through the lens of color. So this was the main album cover. The reason why I had, sorry, okay. Yeah, the reason why I had this was because for each of the songs, I actually made it a big deal to create the, like, logifying the titles, right? So, yeah, I just have all of that. I think my best is this guy because of the teardrops that's falling off here. Then Corinth next. Then this, I loved this so much. And yeah, that was me thinking through stuff. And what I did was that I listened to all of the music. Of course, I get first dibs, right? So listened to them and used color to interpret exactly how it sounded. So if you looked at this and you were listening to, and you were listening to It's a Journey, it will feel just right. Right? If you were listening to this EA, it would feel just right. And this too, it will feel just right. So I was just playing with color, because why not? Then I got to a phase where I'm like, at fourth canvas, I'd seen that when we're moving through projects and all of that, we're like at a point where we want to decide on color, and then I'll just get called. What do you think about this? And then I'm advising on this and all that. And then I got some very strange calls too, where in the middle of the night, not like middle of the night, but like late at night, someone is calling me and saying, I need your opinion on this color thing. And then I'm sitting with them trying to understand what they're looking for, and then crafting a color system together. And I'm like, so there was a period too where we were interviewing some new interns at Fossey, and there was a thing that we were asking, just one question that is standing out for me right now. We're asking them that if there was one thing that we could say, leave it to you, what would that one thing be? And I actually asked myself that same question, and I'm like, yeah, I enjoy stuff, but like, I've been wielding color as like a weapon, so why not? So I said, what if I asked myself questions that I get called to answer in a book? And I wrote the book. The sweetest part of the book is the part that a lot of people do not open, which is the workbook area. That was the reason why I wrote that book. But people would buy your book and they will still call you to ask you questions. I'm like, have you read? You bought this book. I see your name there. You bought the book. Go and use the workbook. So, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that because of my background in art and then design, I think that could birth anything. Like it could lead you anywhere. And maybe we could just do stuff. All right, so the next, Raenest. So this is like the newest kid on the block in the tech space right now. And what had happened was that, what had happened, like too long can't follow, is Gig Pay and Raenest are under the same brand, but like people always felt like, what is Gig Pay? Sorry. What is Gig Pay? And what is Raenest? I mean, I'm looking at these logos now and I'm like, oh, wow. Wow. I mean, what a journey, right? So I led this project where we moved these two brands into this, and it was the wildest journey, right? I mean, this looks really cool now. I hope this plays in time. Think might not play. I don't know. But yeah, this looks really great now, but when we were working, the journey was not as straightforward. So creative people know that when you're designing and all, right, the typical, you have your processes, you have it outlined. Like, I go from here to here to here. When you're talking to your clients, you're like, I do this to this, to this, to this, to this. But because it's a creative process, it doesn't always go like straight. In fact, if it goes straight, sometimes it does not, like, you're like, where's the fight? I don't know, maybe that happens to you, but you're like, this was too easy or something, right? So we started from, okay, so what are we trying to do here and why did it matter, right? So we wanted to understand what exactly made Gig Pay and Raenest different and what could we be doing. Then what did you have in the moment? Who were you trying to service? And then what did the space look like? What did you look like within that space? Massive work, to be honest. Like, so then moved to strategy, then conceptual direction. So conceptual direction is more like design strategy, right? And the idea is that you're creating, you have like a statement that's like your North Star to direct, to help you know when we're done. So when you have the logo, you can literally place the logo side by side, the conceptual direction, and you're like, I think we have it now, right? It's like what you're chasing after, right? So for this project, we had gone to conceptual direction, to logo and visual system, and then we went back to strategy because, I mean, you find out why. And this is like everything that we got to do on that project. Visual system applications, websites. So the websites were two different websites. So one website for Raenest, one for Gig Pay, and then we brought the two together. It was wild. I don't think anything could have prepared us for that project, to be honest. And then define some product assets, right? So, and here is why we had to go from conceptual direction, logo system, back to strategy. So, typically, defining that statement comes from the brand strategy, like who are we trying to become in the world, right? And what must we be, right? So you know that thing that happens with clients that say maybe we are, oh, okay, sorry. Oh, now it's playing. Thank you. Yeah, so this literally was what happened. Boom, and yeah. Yeah. So, thank you. You're so kind. Um, so you know that thing that happens when someone says, when maybe I, let me find a nice way to say it, for it sounds like I'm dissing, but yeah. You know that thing that happens when someone says, we're creative, we're expressive, we're da da da, and then you find out that, really? Really? Because when they start to make comments on the work, it feels like, yeah, that thing is crazy. So, I think the best way to explain this is that I believe that when you are defining stuff like the strategy, the conceptual direction, it has to find a sweet balance between two places. Has to find a sweet spot between where you are right now and where you must be. So it's like a good center, and this is why I think so. I think that if it's too rooted in where you are right now, then there is nothing to aspire to, right? But if it's too rooted in the future, it feels like, how do I reach for this? Because it feels far, right? So this was great, but we found out that it wasn't them because we had gone on to refine, we loved this so much. I mean, what? Yeah, we loved it so much. And then we're like, So, so that was why we had to go back to strategy to say, yo, we must have missed something. Because what some people probably would do would be that they will say, you said you are outliers on a mission. You agreed to this thing. Let me fight it out. But like, when we started to work around, we saw that we needed to go back to the drawing board, but the drawing board was like the brand strategy. So went back to that place and then we crafted this. And we literally took their own words. There's something that the CEO and the co-founders would say quite frequently. They would say that there is something about the creators from Africa that are earning from everywhere, that are earning globally, right? We want them to feel like we're the safest option. So our processes are like that. But it's not just that we're the safest option. It's like we want to be with them for the long haul, right? So we don't want to just be here for like 2 years. We want to be here for a lifetime, literally. So this is how we're thinking. And we saw that indeed, that echoed what they were looking for. I feel like this one had taken us too far into the future. So we had to rein ourselves back in to say, yo, these guys want to feel like the safe spot. They want to feel like the safe spot. And as at then, they were doing receiving, so people you pay for like a project or something through gig pay or Raenest, and then the person that receives it, so there's paying, or like you get paid, you receive, then you spend typically. But like they wanted to be much more. They wanted you to be able to save on their platform. They wanted to literally keep you locked in and to be able to help you invest. So yeah, that led us to the Mobius strip, which is kind of like that endless money loop. This is supposed to move, yeah. Which is kind of like, so the best way to describe it is that if you picked a strip of paper and you twisted it a bit and joined it together, this is what it would look like. It would form a Mobius strip. And if you cut through the Mobius strip, actually it's an endless loop. It's like a loop. And if you cut through it, it won't split. I wish I brought a paper to describe this, but like, if you cut through the middle of this strip, as it is, the center, thin center like that, it would break into two strips. So it would be like a loop, if you get what I mean, like a chain. That was what it would be like. And that kind of described how they wanted money to move. They wanted money to move in an endless loop within the ecosystem. And so, yeah. Okay. So when we presented, the logo was approved. This was supposed to play, but yeah. So the logo was approved. And then we had knots. I said, why not? Because, so for the longest time, I understood color and all of that, but this project took us to another dimension. It took me to another dimension, you know, because there's that point where you review what they had. They were coming from blue, and we had to look at the entire ecosystem to say, sorry, give me a second. Like, we had to look at the entire ecosystem to say, where were people leaning into the most? And of course, blues, right? They were already in blue. So if people were going to think differently about these guys, we needed to move them away from that. Blue and green were really overused. And I remember one of the conversations that we're having that led us to them saying, we love where Monzo is. What if we stay there? And I'm like, I was on that call, I'm like, I know how you feel, but no. So they kept talking within themselves, like, what do you think? What if and then, to be honest, on that call, I went back to look at this. So I was listening to them try to defend why they thought that they wanted to be more vibrant. And I was looking at this. I'm like, how do I explain to you guys that we've seen it all, actually. We had seen everything that was meant to be seen in color. And we thought that this was still their safest space. Right? We thought that this was their safe space. Right? And so, yeah, some of the other things that we learned on that project was how that we saw that, so at Fourth Canvas, we open up our process to say, we want to bring you more into the process to be able to, like, literally enter the kitchen with us and take the heat a bit, know how it feels like to be able to look at all the different things that we're facing and then still be able to make a decision and all that. And sometimes why we do that is because there is a way that when you tell someone that this is your logo, they're like, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried that? So you're like, you know what, just come into the room. Come and smell small pepper. Come and cut small onions or something. So that was part of the things that we then learned out of that process, that sometimes not everyone can take the heat. So you have to find ways to manage how much heat you expose people to, right? So I remember when we were having this conversation over the weekend, I did a screenshot of the strategy document and sent it to the CEO and said, I get why we are trying to find the right color because, of course, there's to be honest, there's a way that people move towards color that looks like, maybe it's just color, just pick one. I mean, just pick one, just move on. But I'm like, no, there's psychological implications to things, right? This room is white. There's a way that it makes you feel. If this room was orange, you can already feel some heat, as I said, orange, right? So you wanted to be a safe space. Money is such a delicate thing. It wasn't just something that we just want. I mean, for some people, the orange was a good place to be, but like for them, it wasn't. So I did a screenshot of their brand personality and sent it to the CEO and said, I get how you feel, but this is what you say you are. If this is what you say you are, unless it is not true, but if it is true, the colors that we've agreed on, that we saw, are just perfect. But if you want us to go again, we can. I mean, we can. We are here for this. This is what we do, right? It's you guys that probably are chasing time. It's the clients that's like, I needed it yesterday, right? So we're like, we could go again, but yeah. So you can see why I'm so passionate. It's because it's color. But it was crazy. So we scaled through color, and then we now had to face the mark again. How can we make things out of this mark and translate, like literally let this mark birth the entire visual system, right? And not be bored with it. So we looked at this part. This is flattened out, but right here is like a flip. Let me find it again. Right? Just right here. Is that flip there. So we started to cook with the flip and adjusted a couple of things, and then we came up with this, and that led us to the different containers that we explored for social media. And then we also looked at image containers, right? Because we felt like sometimes this would just not be enough. So what if we had more? And then we cut off the head of our Mobius and then did some maths and piled them and played around basically. And then, yeah, we got here. And then we started to look at this as well to say, of course, they have a product, so they needed assets. They needed icons. So we picked the flip part, that flip part, just bent it a bit inside, and then took the cut, and then we had this. So we had the outline version, we had the fill version, and it was sweet, right? And then we said, this Mobius strip feels like, yeah. So all of the things I was trying to explain, this is it. Yeah. So that flip thing, that bend, we just looked at it like we could do something with this, right? We really could. So yeah. Then we started to look at 3D assets because to be able to animate the Mobius strip, it had to be beyond 2D animation. So why not have 3D assets? And then we have a product, so why not? So we presented this. This is supposed to move, by the way. We presented like it's okay. Yeah. So we presented the static one, of course, to get approval. So the 5 first, I think it was it 5 or probably like 8 or 10? It was like 7, yeah. Okay. So we presented like 7, and then We said, what do you guys think? I understand. When you're coming from, yeah. So I have an unreleased article that talks about managing change, by the way. We're still like wrapping up work on it. But I do get it, like it's human. When you are coming from a place like this where max what you had to do was walk around gradient that has just two colors, and you have something like this. And then the shiny color is not even white. Is neon green, then like it was hard to sell. I mean, it wasn't too hard to sell. We could see it because we had spent time sinking in the essence or soaking in the essence of the new brand. But like, we had to make room for them to explore, take it all in. So we said, you know what? Test these things out. If you test it out on the product, check. Because this, we created this for you. We created it from your essence. So, but then, after we could not push back too long, we said, you know what? Let's try something else. So we created some other assets, came back and showed it to them and said, what do you think about that? And they said, you know what? We think we like this now. I like, really? I mean, so I remember that before I got that call that they said they now like it, I looked at, so we had started applying it on the website, on the website. And I looked at the website, I'm like, so when we switched to the new one, it started looking like, it feels like I could have seen this somewhere else. Like, it's not striking, right? And that's part of the work that branding does, you know, like you want to create something that that differentiates you, yeah, exactly, right? That makes you you. So we had created that and they pushed back a bit. And I'm looking at it on the website. I'm like, this is falling flat, but let's go again. And then I got the call that said, yo, they like it though. It's like they've been playing around with it. So we went on to add 40 more. Sorry, the 40 more cannot enter the slides because, of course, or else we'll just sleep here. So when the case study comes out, definitely be seeing it. And so, yeah, this looks like this page is supposed to move. So this is what happens on the website. Before, there were two different websites. Now you could, let me just wait for it to come back. Yeah. Now you can go from one side to the other by clicking from personal to business. And so if you open their website now, this is what you would see. And then we animated a couple of the 3D assets and yeah, the cards. I mean, there's so much more on this project that I haven't shared, but I think I should say that special appreciation to the entire team. So the team started from 8. We started from 8 with so much energy and everything, and then we met. So when we started the project, we didn't have any plans for. There's some seats in front though. There's some seats in front. Yeah. Okay. So okay, some people are just coming in. Let me show this page again. Because it's giving me so much joy. So, and by the way, we sat on this project for probably 6 months or so before the launch. It was more, right? Yeah. So what had happened was that we had finished work on the project, or we were close to the end, and then the new head of product came in and said, we've been trying to patch this product, you know, and I mean, from our work, we also created a couple of screens to see how the assets would make sense on the app, on the present the former app, right? And whatever we did, they probably got more confused trying to force the new into the old. Do you get like the old infrastructure and everything? So it was falling apart. So the head of product be like, we have to build a new app. So that took them some good time. And I mean, we had handed off the project and we're waiting for the launch. Like, one day you will launch. And then I'm just checking in. What's up? How is it going? And they're like, how is it going? So, I mean, it was crazy. And then the launch came. And I'm just really thinking back to how the project started really unassuming, right? We started from 8, and then the team got built to 13. And the 13 is just because I'm picking the people that we are mentioning on that project. There are some people that were like supporting on the side and all of that. But it took a whole village to create all of this. And yeah, four citizens are really all that and more. So I want to go to my last slide, right? But then a part of me wants to go back through the entire project. So this is my cute little baby picture. This thing is supposed to move. Okay, let me go back through this because I'm holding this. So yeah, you know what? Let me start from here because I like this so much. Are you going to move for me? Okay, because I love this so much. So I'm showing select screens. I loved this so much. This first, so that this makes sense. And this, so that this makes sense. And this, so that it all comes together. So when we started this project, I remember thinking about how that if there were no limits on what we could do on this project. So we didn't start the project thinking about 3D, to be honest. But like, if there was no limit on what we could do, what would we do, right? And yeah, for your viewing pleasure. So I'll come back to this because I want to say what is on my last slide. Thank you for listening. Maybe you really can just do things.